Hey, folks.
Hey, hello, hello, Lucas.
How are the things?
Cool. Hi, Chris.
Everybody okay?
Okay. Hi, Italy. Okay. I think we're live. I still can go to YouTube. Oh, why does it have design?
I think you did not update the description in Restream before the meeting.
Okay, so when I put it on live, it just take me to YouTube. Doesn't take me to the restroom.
No, first you have to go to Restream always and change it in the Restream.
Oh.
Yeah. Because like it's always taking the latest that is provided, the latest title.
Oh.
Yeah. Later on, you can check there's don't remember the file name, but in the community repo, we have this instruction on how to organize meetings, and there's an like with screenshots instruction how you make a change in Restream.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Good day. Welcome to the market and working group meeting. So, has been our week.
Good, thanks.
Oh, cool. Tilly. Oh, you can't speak? What's with the sign language?
All good.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you for joining the call today. So, yeah, as we can all see in the channel, there's a lot of conversation going on. So yes, we can just like bring all the conversation there. So I think the first thing we are starting with is probably just talk about the marketing strategy doc, or let's start with the cheats, the cheats chart. Sorry, are you saying something?
Me? No, I didn't say anything.
So I was not sure if you were talking to me. Sorry, are you saying something?
No.
I think we
Is
have
it
some
me?
delay.
Is it
No,
me?
I think there's some network
Okay, I
issue
thought
on.
maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Let me share my screen. So uh, sorry, I'm going to okay. All right. So you can all see my screen here. Okay. So I think we can just like probably start with this cheat sheet conversation, because I feel like the strategy doc is going to take a lot of time again. So maybe we could just start with the smaller ones. All right. So Chris, thanks for being here. thanks for all your contributions in the channel. So I think you have a lot to say about cheat sheets operate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, it all comes from an initiative we started internally at Bump about a year ago, where we really wanted to write cheat sheets both for OpenAPI and Async API. We've successfully done that for OpenAPI, and we released it for the first time during API Days London. We've seen that it's something that people enjoyed a lot. The entire community was really happy to have such a cheat sheet, especially as a printed version, where at the same time it needed updates. Uh, it needed updates because, while we printed it, we've been a bit too fast, and we've left some typos in and things like that, which wasn't really expected, and it needed to be updated also because we took some assumptions and some decisions when writing that cheat sheet, while the community had feedback. So it's something that we're more than happy to change and iterate on, so that everybody can be happy with it, really in just like an open source fashion. For now, it is actually accessible sort of via an open source GitHub repository. We're still working on making a web version that can actually be edited with code, so that then it's really like fully open source. Anybody can contribute to it. But beyond that, what we already started discussing with Eric Wild and the API Days organizers is that we would have a next iteration on how to, on communicating around that cheat sheet and letting the community contribute to it. So the idea is print like very large versions of those cheat sheets, like something around 2 meters by 3 meters, so like a complete wall where we print it, and where we enable the community to probably pin some post-its or things like this. We still have to figure out exactly what kind of interaction we could expect, but so that they can suggest iterations. So it's like not like not a workflow around Git, but still it's a fun way to also have people get interested in it, and then get them to suggest some iterations. So I've talked here now a lot about what we have done for OpenAPI. Now the thing is, again, we want to do the exact same thing with Async API. So it's not one wall, but it's 2 walls. And in my ideal world, I would even have them side by side, because they're complementary use cases. I really see OpenAPI and Async API working hand in hand, because it covers complementary use cases. So first off, is it something that you're happy with? Have such an event also at API Days. Second is, are you? What do you think of the current structure that we've used for our OpenAPI cheat sheet? Because our aim is to build a new one. We have seen yours, Lucas, and we'll definitely take inspiration from it. But the goal is to have the same kind of structure for the Async API cheat sheet than the OpenAPI cheat sheet. So also we wanted to discuss that with you and make sure that everything was fine. And third question is on whether we should cover Async API v2 or v3. And that is a quite important one, which is related, of course, to what is the current adoption and what are the current objectives of async API. Obviously, releasing a V3, was for good reasons. Now, is it better to have people use a V2 cheat sheet because it's what they're, V2 is what they're using on a day-to-day basis? Or do we really want to promote V3 where possibly, and there again, I don't know what is the adoption, less people could actually really use it on a day-to-day basis? Those are all of my questions.
Which one you want to answer first?
So, I mean, yeah. First off, is it something that we should do? Are you okay with such an idea of having those walls printed at API Days Paris so that people can interact with it and iterate so that we get better cheat sheets for the community?
I mean, me as myself, I have nothing against. It's gonna help promotion. So yeah, I mean, we already use cheat sheet at the conferences as a giveaway, and for now, the feedback we are getting is usually whenever we interact with people, give them the cheat sheet, and we see how they react to it. We don't have any more feedback from it. So any other initiative, there's nothing blocking us from
Okay.
that.
Okay. So with the API Days organizers, I'm also discussing, and Tuli was there. We were discussing about indeed, the logistics around this ID. So where Bump would take care of having the walls printed and so on. We take care of the design, we take care of that part and the logistics up front. Now, of course, it also means that we want ideally to have those walls probably near the community booth, because it makes a lot of sense to have it there, and that as much as we will do our best to always have somebody from the BumpSH team standing close to the cheat sheet so that we can explain people what it is, how they can interact with it, and so on. It's probably a good thing to also have somebody maybe more vendor neutral, from each OpenAPI and async API community. I don't know if it's at all times, but regularly enough so that indeed it's not just Bump doing a show there.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
That's good.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, of course, we're probably not gonna discuss the details on how it's gonna work in Paris,
No.
But yeah.
It's more, is it something that we're all happy on about working with, and then indeed we do it separately. Okay, so it's great. So question number 2 was about Bump starting a new version of the cheat sheet. So you have written one, Lucas. Is it okay for you if we do a new version with the structure that we started with on the OpenAPI cheat sheet? So let me point it to you. It will make things a little more simple to look at. It is right here. Where's the chat? There. And again, it might you might need a moment to look into it and feedback. You don't necessarily have to answer right now, but it's of course a key point for us. Make sure that we start with the right structure and that everybody's happy with, or that we completely have different views about it.
So at the moment when we have our cheat sheet and looking on your OpenAPI cheat sheet, I can already tell you that there are some cool things and things that are not aligned with us.
Mhm.
One thing is because as far as I understand, your cheat sheet is focused on one side, right? Like a one cheat sheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our cheat sheet, like Async API cheat sheet, was created with intention that it's printed out as a part of the swag bag, that
Mhm.
anybody can take it with
Yes.
them pinned to the board. And because it's a piece of paper, then why not print it both sides?
Mhm.
So that's a big difference. It's basically different, like different motivation to do it this way.
So we also have it, printed, and that's also the idea, hand it out to people at the booth. Of course, the idea is if we print it, then our logo is going to be somewhere on it. So that's where, of course, we need to make sure that you're okay with that, especially where what we were discussing was OpenAPI is that they even asked us to actually have the OpenAPI logo on the cheat sheet while it was not there on the first print. So, for us, it's important to know if you're okay with it, or if we should, do it another way.
It's probably complex because you would have to tell me, like, because I don't know the story behind the Open API cheat sheet. So it was like purely your initiative, as far as I understand, right? It wasn't
Yes,
created by Open API.
that's correct.
So like if you ask me, you don't even have to put the logo of Open API, although it just makes sense to visually
Yes.
show people. With Async API, it's different. Sorry, if you want to reuse whatever we did at Async API, it's a bit different story because there's a licensing topic coming into the game.
Mhm.
So basically, like Async API is part of Linux Foundation, nonprofit. Whatever we do is
Mhm.
open.
Yes.
Which means that like even the work on the cheat sheet, not sure if you know the background, like basically the cheat sheet, I was like, let's say I'm the content owner because I was like giving the content,
Yes.
but the way it was created, designed, everything, that was part of the bounty program that we have, thanks to the
Mhm.
sponsors' money. We had Maya designer working on the design of the cheat sheet because I'm not good with these things. So I was just thinking about just content-wise what we should have there. And again, one like main motivation was to have it as a tool for the conference because it's just easier to explain people what Async API is, show different things. So it was purely like that was the main reasoning for the sheet. One, like, so if we go direction that you reuse whatever we have, then we just have to, there's a ball, let's call it, there's a ball on our side, because we when we joined Linux Foundation, we set up a charter with Linux Foundation. Some rules written in the charter, we have them, but like some of the requirements from Linux Foundation, we did not apply them because we didn't see a need from the community yet. And what I'm trying to say is that, like, for example, one of the requirements is Apache license that should be for the code. And that's what we have. All the code in Async API is Apache 2 license because like we actually had it already. So yeah, it's easy to set up. We know all the customers, all the sponsors, everybody needs Apache v2. But in case of docs, we didn't make any changes and we left Apache 2 license in website as well, which means the cheat sheet that we have now in the website repository is licensed under not the best license because Apache is for the code and cheat sheet is kind of docs. So the only thing, if you really want, like if you want to go this direction that you just reuse whatever the community created, then yeah, we just need to open a small pull request and make an adjustment that like, okay, Apache 2 in the website is related to the code of the website and all the docs and whatever
Okay.
educational content is Creative Commons attribution v4.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
So
that's technicalities,
yeah.
and that's the and technically what it means for you is that this license kind of requires you that you have to kind of give an attribution to Async API community, which basically means putting a logo of Async API in the cheat sheet and saying like that's an Async API cheat sheet.
So that's, of course, absolutely not a problem. Quite the contrary. It is something that we would love to do. I would say then we probably want to. We will probably want to have another dedicated discussion, and possibly with Sebastian at BumpSH, so our CEO and founder, because he's going to be involved in making that new version of the cheat sheet. So that either it's something that starts entirely from scratch, and then an input from anybody is more than welcome. Anyhow, we will do it open source, in terms of licensing as well. So either we do that, and then there is no problem with the licensing, or in any case, for us, even on printed versions, we can always say, okay, this has been inspired from the cheat sheet available at this specific repository. I mean, if that makes everybody in line, then yes, for sure.
Yeah. But we just like, I mean, I don't think it would be a problem, but like basically like till today, nobody yet openly talked about reusing documentation from the community. Yes. So we never talked about this license. So
yes.
So just to secure you as a sponsor, as a company, like if we go this direction, like when we jump into details, we really go direction of reusing, printing, etc. Just to secure you as a company, we just have to change this license. But again, like it's super simple per request. Nothing that we have to vote on. It's actually requirement from Linux Foundation, so it's like really simple change.
Very cool. Well, thanks a lot for pointing this out. Let's indeed keep it in mind as soon as we get into that situation.
Yeah.
Good. So let's also indeed then try and schedule maybe a call between you, Lucas, and Sebastian to get really down to the content of the cheat sheet, how it should be structured, and so on. I won't be the right person because I just don't have the right skills for that. And just the last one question was on whether you think we should go for async v2 or v3, depending on the community adoption and overall community strategy.
Yeah, I'm. Don't ask me. I'm biased. Of course, v3. But I mean, I also see adoption, IBM and others. Like with Async API, it's a bit different than Open API because we have a lot of tools out of the box supporting this spec. Whenever we release new version, we have converter. So I can openly see that like many companies that already used Async API, they already support v3 because it's much easier for them to adopt than with Open API versions. So that's why the cheat sheet that we have now, it's focused on v3 only. It's not mentioning v2 at all.
Okay. Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, what you just said makes a lot of sense, especially if you have a converter, then I can see that. Great. Well, that's all I had as questions. Right now it's indeed more in terms of executing, how we make it happen. And we have, a little more than a month and a half. Well, just a month and a half actually in front of us. So we'll want to iterate probably very quickly on the content, and therefore, Lucas, if you can share some of your time with us, that would be amazing in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Especially if it comes to this, let's say, delicate discussions, especially about licenses. That's definitely we should continue a bit in private. But of course, like whatever we agree, it's up to the community to decide, of course.
Yes.
But just to let you know, like at the moment, the plan we had for Paris was to use whatever we already have, because we printed pretty much a bit of these cheat sheets.
Yes.
So in Paris, at the API standards booth, we will just give away whatever we have, because we're cheap, basically. That's why, for example, in Paris, we were giving away swags from London as well last year.
Makes sense.
And you can also, like, before we have an interaction with Sebastian, you can tell him, like, I mean, I don't see a big clash between your, like, Open API cheat sheet and Async API, especially, actually, I see you solved the much better than we, how some items can be shown in a more condensed way. We take over too much space in the cheat sheet at the moment, but there will be some differences. So it's going to be really hard to be one-to-one the same, because of the nature of Async API and Open API.
Of course.
Async API is, as an initiative, it's not just a spec. So that's why our cheat sheet also talks about, for example, tools and have
Yes.
QR codes, etc.
Yes. Yeah, I understand. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But just to conclude, like, because you had also the question, like, do you, like, if we have something against that, you do it, or you would reuse whatever we have. Like, I always push and promote approach that we do things together in the community. So I would say the best is if you, if we continue editing the existing cheat sheet in the website where we store it, because later on we also want to have it, like, rendered in the website, and also extend it, like, because I do a lot of research about case studies at the moment, something that we discuss also in Slack, the Oracle, Postman, and other stories, how they use Async API, and seeing how many people ask what they can do with Async API. I also think about a third page for cheat sheet where these use cases are highlighted in the cheat sheet, well, really quickly visible, again, for the sake of conferences where it's much easier to explain things and give people, like, as a reference for later. So yeah, better if we do it together in the org, but also in the end, it depends, of course, on you and your business decisions.
Makes sense. And definitely, thanks a lot for mentioning all of that. I'll discuss it with Seb, and we'll, get back in touch with you very soon.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for the
That's it. I don't want to take more of the time here. You know, I've taken already about half of it. So
no worries. It's a good convo. Yep.
Lucas, you're the host now.
Wow, what happened to Mommy? She lost.
she lost network.
Oh yeah, she's back. I
Okay,
think.
she's back.
Hey, Mommy.
Yes.
back?
Well, my my laptop just went off just like that, but I'm back now. Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, Lucas. I think that is well solved. I think next thing on our agenda is we talk about what is the
I think you're some network connectivity issues again.
Oh,
Can
you can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but can you repeat the?
Okay, I'm talking about the testimony, the contributors' testimonies. Yep. Tuli, you have that on the agenda.
Oh yeah. So I was going through some of the stuff on the community repo. So I remember we spoke about it with Lucas. I think it was a long time. So when I was going through, like, pending issues that haven't been done, one of it was the contributor testimonials. So I think now, since we have marketing, I don't know, Lucas, if you still remember. Bami, do you mind if you open the issue?
Sorry, I need to share my screen. Sorry. Am I still here? Oh, no. Okay. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the issue. Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So yeah, the idea was to have like on the community repo is to have testimonials. So I think now since we have marketing and also since you are writing like some of the GSOC stories, it's time like to also incorporate the testimonials as part of the contributor success stories that you are writing.
All right. Okay. All right, cool.
But that's related to the marketing strategy, isn't it? Isn't it
Yeah,
already
I think
mentioned in the
I
community
have it.
strategy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have it
Mm-hmm.
in the strategy already. So it's nice that it's already, there's already like an issue on it already. So
Awesome.
yeah, cool. All right. So thank you. Truly want to get paid. Moving on. I think now we are back to the strategy doc and the ambassador program. And for that, we have few comments. Most of the feedback or issues, no, most of the feedback that was given initially, I have implemented. Our vendors. So
Wait, because the
Chris has a lot of things. Sorry, Tuli.
because you're
I
like robotic a bit.
Oh,
Like,
I was
like
robotic. Oh,
yeah, the
Jesus
network is
Christ.
cutting you a lot. So not sure how others, but the last sentence I heard was that you implemented most of the comments and then nothing.
Okay, so I hope I'm audible now. So most of the comments have been implemented, but now I see that there are new suggestions, especially the one in for the vendors, for our sponsors and our vendors. So I think it's a conversation we also want to have now. So Chris has a lot of interesting opinions on that. I'm going to that. Yeah. Has gone so far. Yeah, this. So yeah, I think it's a conversation we want to have again. And by the way, thank you, Chris, for the suggestion. So I think it's a good idea for us to have or develop a goal that will be in the interest of the sponsors and the vendors. That was why I asked the question yesterday that what other options are we considering in terms of giving value back to the sponsors and end users. So it is thrown out now. Chris, Lucas.
Just to clarify, because in case of the vendor ecosystem, like the idea behind developing the vendor ecosystem, there is something more than giving the like some direct benefit to sponsors. I think that's one of the things, of course, because like if we have an ecosystem, we have more organized, let's say, group, then figuring out these things will be much easier. I think the most challenging is the forming of the ecosystem, like because unless somebody questions if it makes sense in general to do it, but I don't think anybody would question that. It's just like, for me, the most critical is like figuring out how to do it.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and it is really in you know in that dynamic that I was hoping to add value myself, just with those ideas. Essentially, even though we're here talking about an open source project, I think we had this discussion in the past that somehow some of what we do relates to a business. At the end of the year, we still will have profits and loss, even if we're not here to make profits. Um, the financial part needs to be taken into consideration, and as soon as some of those finances come from businesses, we need to make sure that they're happy with giving async API money, and very often that's because it relates to an outcome for their business as well. It's not just because they're great people that they will give money to an open source project. Of course, there's part of that, and we wish everybody would do that more often. But to be very pragmatic, I think there is most of the time an interest in giving money. Now, it's also where I introduced the thing of some sponsors can bring value to async API without actually giving money. So for instance, in the very specific situation that we've discussed for the first half hour, for Bump, it's maybe in a weird way easier to make an investment on building a cheat sheet and investing in printing it and so on, which still represents financially quite an amount of money. It's probably easier for us to do that than just sign a check and send it to async API. From how we invest money, it's very different. So and also what's super important in any case is, depending on the sponsor profiles, they have different needs, right? They have different challenges that they're trying to solve. Like I was trying to describe, some sponsors are just looking to hire people. Some sponsors are just looking to sell their software. Some sponsors are looking to sell services. And depending on that, they probably can bring different value also to the community. So it's really an approach. And here I get back to what I was saying at the start. Just like a business, we can even consider sponsors being customers. And when you do that, you always have to wonder, what is your ICP? What is your ideal customer profile? So who is that? What problem you want to solve for them? And who is the potential correct kind of customer, right? Some companies are just the right type of companies to sponsor async API. Some just are not. So yeah, it's here back to the startup approach that we have also ourselves right now, figuring out what is our target market and how we can best work with them, because they see the value in using us.
And not many people are aware that, for example, somebody can see, like at the moment, we just have a vendor ecosystem mainly around the sponsors, let's say. I wouldn't even say vendor ecosystem. We just have sponsors, financial sponsors. And we have some tiers where they're pretty, we could say, not very inclusive for smaller companies comparing to big players. And somebody can have a look, let's say, on the asyncAPI.com and see, okay, Bump is silver and pays less than, for example, I don't know, Postman. But not many people, unfortunately, are aware that, for example, having you on the calls, having you involved in this discussion, having you spending time on a discussion with API days about cheat sheet and getting stuff printed on the cheat sheet, of course, it's related also to your business and your marketing, but in the end, it's much higher investment than just paying for the silver sponsorship. It's like this non-direct finance sponsorship, which is, I always say, I prefer full-time support from your employees in general, not bump, not like from sponsors, than your money, because in the end, like having some senior engineer involved, like even 50% of their time in Async API, it's like, if we would like to calculate how much money it means from the donation perspective, that's incomparable. And we have examples like this in the community. We have Specmatic, for example, which is a really small company that people do as something additional. It's an open source project, but one of the guys is already an ambassador of Async API. Also, the founder is involved in going to conferences, talking about Async API at conferences. They also directly sponsored one of the maintainers to do some job for them. They also even now are bringing the whole new case study from like big consortium from Europe. And all these things, I mean, I'm not even complaining that they're not silver or anything like this, because the value that they bring, this additional value that you're talking about, this additional marketing, is like uncomparable to even really being a platinum. Not saying that we don't need the money.
Just money is always needed.
Just that we need somehow recognize this work. The tricky part is that it's much easier to recognize financial contribution than non-financial contribution, because money, it's easy to count, and then set the value to non-financial contribution, that's a tricky stuff.
You are spot on. Yes. Now, I can't imagine we would find the right solution here today in this call, but it would feel probably like a good next step to reach out to all of your current sponsors. I mean, all of our current sponsors at the end of the day. I'm also part of the community. To all of our current sponsors, and ask them precisely what they're looking for that potentially they don't have yet out of their sponsorship, and what they can offer beyond money. And try to understand exactly that ICP, that ideal customer profile, even if we're talking more of an ideal sponsor profile. And indeed, try to figure out, okay, can we actually have that kind of tier levels, of sponsorship? Does that make sense? Or should we have a totally different offering? Maybe people would pay a lot of money for posting a job offer on the Async API website in a dedicated section. That could be worth saying. I've seen that in the Drupal community. In the Drupal community, sponsorships, can go a long way with job postings. Maybe it's the thing. Maybe it's not. I don't know. That's the thing. I think the best people to answer those questions are the sponsors, the current sponsors, as well as people who could be sponsoring in future or who have decided not to do that in the past. It's an even better information. Why didn't they want to do it? What can we change so that all of a sudden they will do it? So yeah, I would really, in any startup I've worked at, the best insight I got was always from customers and leads. And having a very transparent discussion is the best way to understand how you can move forward with them?
I wish it's
Um,
it's that easy. But yeah, Italy, continue.
Okay. So, okay, I'm doing it for my own selfish reasons on my own side, but yeah, I liked what Christoph said. I mean, we have this other initiative like to grow cop maintainers, big cop maintainers in the community. And Lucas, I don't know. What if we do go with the suggestion whereby we reach out to each sponsor? Maybe like also get them their perspective if maybe some might not want to have money, but also like delegate somebody to come and help maintain. But like I said, it's from my own selfish kind of thing that I'm doing on the side. It's not more marketing, but this is kind of intertwined with the initiative that I'm currently running.
I mean, it's complicated because I mean, I already tried it. The thing is that every single sponsor is different, with different needs. It also depends on the size of the company, and like the majority, they don't answer what do they need. And that's why I took this initiative to start drafting a proposal with all the different possible options that we can additionally offer. Because I heard from some of them like, oh yeah, it would be nice to that we can, for example, mention like pitch our product in the newsletter. Or some of them answered that it would be nice to have some sponsored blog post on Async API where they can preach their product. So basically, whenever I was getting an answer, it's always about giving a visibility not just to the brand as a logo, but giving visibility to their product. Now, without defining what that could be, it was just like, that's how we can assume people, like majority of sponsors, they sponsor us and they would sponsor more if they get more visibility to their product. Some sponsors just sponsor because they want to be on the website, because they feel that this is important initiative. Now, definitely talk to the sponsors. I'm not saying that we know better than customers, but that's why I took this initiative to kind of draft proposal, because it's basically much easier for them and much better to get answers, so they can see what is in the offer, what makes sense for them and what not. Because that's also what I'm getting from discussions with them whenever I preach to get them as sponsors. I just show current prospectus for the sponsors, and I tell them as Platinum, you get 2 hours 2 hours consulting every month about Async API. And believe me, like it's in the prospectus for like many years, and nobody yet, any single sponsor exercised it, because it's usually people that we deal with. It's marketing, devrel, and they don't need this consulting. They don't have time for this consulting. It's basically a feature that, I mean, it's, you get it with Platinum, but you're not using it.
Yes, and this exact discussion, you can have it. So what you just described is the kind of typical discussion we could have around a product, where you have that one feature you strongly believe in, but nobody's going to use it, even though it's amazing. They just don't care. Just the same way, then the tiers that you imagined, the sponsorship tiers, like you can have the pricing plans, with the several levels that you can see on the SaaS products, and you still make assumptions of what of the features should be in that plan or in that plan. So I'm going to try to find a resource I've been using for building product pricing plans, because I think, you know, some inspiration can be taken from it. So I'll post it later. Now, what I suggest is probably anyhow, you need to go to sponsors with IDs. You know, they won't necessarily have it themselves. So what you've started doing is amazing, and probably that we should work on, rather than presenting directly tiers, you know, like you have done, is presenting the list of anything that async API could offer to the sponsors, and let them grade it by importance. You know, so what do they see as most important in all of the options? In any case, you are also very, very true, very right about the fact that the marketing teams will not have the same needs than the dev teams. So I would suggest, and I know it's easier said than done, but to make sure that indeed you're not talking just to the marketing teams. For a product, it's just the same. You know, we're talking to the users, we're talking to the buyers, we're talking to the decision makers. They're different user personas, and they don't have the same needs. Still, we need to make sure that we, you know, tackle the needs of each of them, so that at the end the deal is a success in terms of sales, and that the usage is a success, which is even more important in terms of product. So there are possibly some tactics indeed in product management and go-to-market strategies that could be an inspiration for anything we're doing now with async API.
The only difference is there's no direct business behind async API, which of course make it much harder to find time to do these things. That's why, for example, we're thinking about this working group for marketing. When we were setting it up, I actually behind the scenes invited all the sponsors to join. And you and Georgie from Gravity is like, so Bound and Gravity are exceptions. But also because it all depends on, again, on the sponsor. If you look into IBM, which has a long history, huge portfolio, and event management is just one of hundreds of products they have, then like some senior marketing from IBM is not so much interested in just investing more into just this one community somewhere else, which I'm not going to complain. It kind of makes sense. But I was also thinking if it's not the way we work, that is a problem. If it's not this open live stream meetings that we scare people off, because even like we always in Async API pushed for this radical transparency. That's why all the meetings recorded, live stream, etc. But that's not very normal way of working for companies, especially in I think marketing. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. And maybe one of the things we should, like, if we want to build the ecosystem and we want to have people more involved in these discussions, so it's not like one that I have to contact every sponsor one by one, but rather have them in a group, in a discussion. Maybe it's a moment that we think about Shantam rule or some other rules for the meetings where we provide meeting notes from whatever we talk about, but we kind of enable an environment where we can openly discuss everything, and with a rule that it's not going to affect the person that is sharing the information, because they have some obligations with their business. I'm not sure if you know what I mean, but basically what I'm trying to say is that even me, that I'm huge fan of radical transparency, sometimes when we're talking about these things, like marketing affecting some business and also other communities, I limit myself sometimes. I filter what I want to say, and some things I don't want to say openly, just to not cause any bad messaging, bad intentions with some other communities, and have some like I don't know, issues with the communities. So sometimes I just don't say things out loud in open meetings, which might affect also the whole outcome of the meeting, maybe. Because if we have to filter ourselves because of this sensitive topics, then also we then have to rely that somebody can read in between lines and get better conclusions, etc. So that's something always that I had in mind. Like that's why maybe I was always failing whenever I tried to get people more involved from marketing and business decisions. That it's basically the environment where they don't want to be in. Not sure what you think.
I completely understand you, and pretty much like you have, I have this approach to full transparency. So possibly that today I have been saying things that other vendors in my place wouldn't have said. Hopefully, I'm not offending anyone here. By the way, just trying to bring IDs, and it really is the only thing. I don't want to force anybody in thinking anything specific. So does that mean that we should have separate indeed meetings? I mean, I'm still happy to contribute as long as basically what I can do can help things move. Just tell me how I can do it.
Yeah, it's a big topic, like, because I was that's something that I was always and it wasn't me, just like when Fran decided to hand over Async API to Linux Foundation, we had countless discussions about how that should be done, that we didn't like how other communities operate, how they do stuff, how they set up the open governance, how business is more important than the community. And so we were doing a lot of due diligence, a lot of discussions with different people about how to set up the open governance. And in the end, we got an open governance where it's the community that is more important. And sponsors are welcome, but they don't get influence on the project, direct influence on the project thanks to the sponsorship. That's why we don't have this concept of members. We don't have any business governance or whatever that, or whatever like this. But I was also thinking, like, maybe, again, that's one of the things we can have on the list for potential sponsors, that we're not gonna, I don't think we're ever gonna change this open governance model. But we can always set up a group of people that like a meeting that is it's like we have technical steering committee, we have ambassadors. We could also have like a business advisors or something like this, where sponsors pay to be in that group. They're sponsors, they're becoming members of this business advisory. But it's not like in other communities. They can't direct and change direction of the project or whatever like this. But it gives them, like, we give them all the framework, like this private meetings, this Chandham rules that just the meeting notes are provided. We have this trust between people at the meetings that we can openly discuss everything, argue about things that people would not like to argue in public, like, for example, adoption. What's the strategy? Should we only think about V3 or V2? So the sponsors can openly, in some private meeting, complain that, for example, they don't want to differentiate these two versions. They want to invest the same amount of community time to V2 as to V3, for example. For now, they don't have it. We don't hear this voice. We could hear this voice only if it's openly shared in the community. I'm not accepting any private discussions about such topics. And even if some TSC member is, then again, there's no way to share it again. So you know what I'm trying to say? Like basically, develop the vendor ecosystem. I think it's extremely important for us long term to secure Async API. I'm just thinking about its complexity, probably biased again. Maybe I just think it's so complex because I tried it a few times in the past. But I think that like there are so many different aspects around it that I think we have to discuss and solve that not sure if without this open discussion about it and then maybe closed discussion, if we can change that. And I don't think we can change it again without involvement of the business of the sponsors. And again, how to do it only in private discussion. So
How about the experiment? I mean, it feels like, a very valid point that you have here. Can we just start the first experiment having a non-public talk with small vendors and a very specific agenda, saying potentially, okay, how should the sponsorship packages look like? What are your key drivers for becoming a sponsor and so on? It's possibly a first experiment, and then you can decide whether it makes sense to reproduce that or not.
it actually makes a lot of sense. I like experimenting. Setting a date, open invite, and clear rule that whoever joins is only the person that was invited, or they delegate someone, and we openly discuss. Okay, that will have to be a well-prepared meeting, but yeah.
Yes, you want to prepare it very thoroughly, and I don't know. You don't necessarily go to heavy bureaucratic stuff, but it indeed needs to be an agreement between people. Okay, we can have open discussions between us, but then it stays indeed where it is, and it's in the benefit of the async API community and so on. And yeah.
I like it. I'll open an issue about it because I think we have to continue this discussion and exchange thoughts, especially even the invite itself to the meeting. We have to think about it, like what should be in such invite, what should we explain if we have to explain the drill, how that works, how the meeting works to encourage people to join. Yeah. Okay.
You might want to survey a little people around anyway, because let's say I have no idea. I end up in this meeting, and one of our key competitors is part of the meeting too. How much will I be willing to share?
Exactly. That's why. Again, maybe that's why people don't participate that much in open meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's an important one, so definitely to be considered carefully, and it should be very clear to everybody who's there, who's not there, because then obviously, yes, if one of my key competitors is there, I'll be sharing some of the things because it still is the point of the call, and some of the other things I might refrain from sharing it. So yeah. Now, the reality is today I'm sharing a lot of things publicly, so some of my competitors could be listening, and I don't get anything from them.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's the reality.
It's part of the deal.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, we are already over time, so I'll make sure that for sure for this topic we are tracking the discussion because it's valuable. But also, like, let's continue also chatting about this, develop the vendor ecosystem in general.
Sure. Happy to do that, really.
Yeah.
It's a super interesting topic anyway, so, it's not just... it's an investment that I'm more than happy to do because I'm interested in it.
The only thing, let's next days, let's also like try to clarify if we think it should be part of community marketing strategy, if it's not completely different topic. That because it's going to be complex enough that I think it requires a different description, different separate discussion from the community marketing. But I might be wrong, of course, but it's just my gut feeling about it.
It's a great question. I won't answer any of it now because it probably needs further thinking.
Yeah, I think on my end, I'd say that it's sort of part of community marketing because obviously it is it involves the community, the project, and also the sponsors and vendors. So in a way, it's quite complex though. So it might be something we want to do separately, but then it's still part of community sponsorship. I mean, the marketing strategy since it's like under partnership and sponsorship.
Yeah. You're right. I am actually wrong because like in the community marketing, we also have Async API conference, which is also complex, and we just have separate documents that describe what it is. And the marketing strategy just mentions certain topics that are in the scope. Okay, yeah. Sorry, you're actually completely right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. We've used past time. Hi, Ford, and thanks for joining us as well. I think other conversations can happen in the channel. This vendors ecosystem is going to be a very long one, and yeah, so we can continue it in the channel. Otherwise, is Fuad's suggestion on the ambassador program that would have go through next, but we are like about 9 minutes past time, so we can continue the conversation on either GitHub or on Slack. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Fuad. And thanks, Lucas. Thanks, Tuli, and everyone that joined on YouTube as well. I'm not seeing any question or message on YouTube, so I assume there is none. So thank you all for joining and see you next time.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.